This video will show you how to replace your front brake caliper on this Toyota Corolla. This will be located behind your front wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. The first thing we have to do is safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so the front wheel's off the ground. After you've done that, we're going to remove all 5 of our 21mm lug nuts and then the wheel. Let's start by making our way to the bleeder screw attached to the caliper. If you have any sort of cover, just go ahead and remove that. These come in all different shapes and sizes. This one I'm just going to go ahead and pull right off of here. We'll set that aside. The bleeder screw on my application is an 8mm, so I'm going to be using that. We'll be turning this counterclockwise. We have a collection receptacle under this area so we can collect and recycle any fluid as necessary. Make sure you can see a trickle of fluid coming out of here. If you can't, there might be an issue. This looks good. I'm going to gently close this off temporarily. Now at this point, what we're going to have to do is have our collection receptacle under here. We're going to reopen this bleeder screw, but we also want to make our way into the passenger compartment with a pry bar or a rod of some sort. We have to press the brake pedal all the way down to the floor as far as possible and hold it there with something such as that pry bar. You can do this pressing it up against the seat if necessary. Let's make sure we open this. Now that we have that bar in place, let's go ahead and close this. It only needs to be snug. Just clean any mess in this area. After completing that, we're looking along the back side of the caliper at our banjo bolt. This is holding the flex hose to the caliper. We'll start removing that. Go ahead and loosen it, and then lightly snug it by hand. The next thing I always like to do is install one of my original lug nuts. This is going to hold the rotor for us. We're going to start removing the caliper next. To start removing the caliper, you're going to find that you have 2 14mm caliper mounting bolts. Let's remove the pair. I'm starting along the top. I'll fully remove this one. Just give it a quick inspection, but I like to leave it in a couple threads. Let's get the next one out of there. Now we'll take hold of the caliper. We can finish removing that mounting bolt. We'll pull the caliper off of here, and now we can have a look along the back side. We're going to finish removing that banjo bolt now. For this banjo bolt, we already started it, so we should be able to take hold of it by hand. We'll just unscrew it. Fluid may come out of this area. Okay. There's our caliper. We'll make sure we drain this out into our collection receptacle. Set that aside. Have a quick look at your brake flex hose. You want to remove the banjo bolt and any pre-existing gaskets. Never use any old gaskets. A thorough inspection of the banjo bolt. Let's set that aside. Now we can get our brake pads out of here. As you start removing them, you want to pay attention to the friction material. Just make sure it's not worn low or at an angle of some sort. This one's clearly in good condition. Same for the outer pad. Now along the back side here, we're going to start removing our caliper bracket mounting bolts. For this, we're using a 17mm. We'll start with the top bolt and then move down to the lower bolt. Just leave that in there a couple threads. Remove those bolts and the bracket. There it is, friend. Let's prepare our brand new caliper for installation. We can't install it just like this. We have to take it apart first. On the bench, we're going to look along the back side. We have a brand new banjo bolt and 2 brand new gaskets, so we can remove those first. Separate all that. We'll set those aside. Continuing on, you have 2 14mm headed mounting bolts. Let's set this portion of the caliper aside temporarily. We're focusing on the bracket next. As for the bracket, we're going to remove each one of our 2 slider pins. Take hold of the slider pin boot, remove the pin. Once you have that out of place, the next thing I always like to do is remove the pre-existing lubricant and add my own high temperature lubricant. Now that I have the pre-existing lubricant off of there, I'm going to use some high temperature lubricant. We're lubricating the entire smooth shafted area of the slider pin. After you've lubed that area, make your way all the way up towards this edge. You can see a small groove making its way all the way around. That's where the slider pin boot will sit. Let's slide this back into position. As we press it in, make sure you remove any air from inside of the boot. We'll just go ahead and work this around, working in that lubricant. Clean any mess. Repeat the process on the other side of the caliper bracket. On these slider pins, you're going to find that you have a vibration dampener on one of the pins. It's important to make sure that that pin gets replaced in the same position that you had removed it. Now it's time to have a look at our brand new caliper bracket tins. Now if you were to look at these tins, you're going to find that there's 2 of one and then there's 2 of another. We can see that we have edges leading outward. 2 look like they're going out towards the left side and 2 out towards the right. Let's add high temperature lubricant to the 4 areas that those caliper tins will slide into. This will help with vibration dampening and noise reduction overall. Now, when installing our tins, we want to make sure we have them in the proper orientation. We have this area that protrudes outward. Make sure it faces out and away from where the rotor port would be in the center here. Aside from that, there's an area that has a flat portion. That's going to be facing down towards this portion of the bracket. Line it up, press it on. We can tell we have that in the proper orientation. Now let's do the same to all others. Line them up, press them on. Let's set that aside and have a look at the other portion of the caliper. We're going to be adding our high temperature lubricant along the piston and along the backside of each of these 2 ears, essentially in the areas that touch up against our brake pads. This will also help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. At this point, we can get over to the vehicle. We're going to start with the caliper bracket. Slide it over your brake rotor, continue on with your 2 caliper bracket bolts. For those bracket bolts, go ahead and clean up the threads. I like to use some thread locker. We'll start them in, snug them up. The torque for these is 79 foot-pounds. Got our torque wrench. Now it's time for our brake pads. When you install these, you want to make sure you install them in the same orientation as when you had removed them. Typically, the inboard pad should have a wear indicator. That's going to be along the bottom area. For those pads, we're just going to line them up and slide them into place. Now we're going to want to try to align it with the caliper bracket. I like to try to roll it in once it is aligned. It can be a little bit difficult getting it to fit. There we are. As you press it in, you just want to make sure you can still move it around. If you have to hammer it in for some reason, that's going to be an issue. It needs to be taken care of. Now it's time for the outer brake pad. There we are. We've got that one in there as well. Now you want to make sure these do not fall out and potentially get damaged. Let's continue on with the rest of the caliper. For the caliper, you want to slide it over the brake pads. It should fit over those slider pins as well. You can maneuver those around as necessary. Start in your slider mounting bolts. Snug them up. The torque for those is 25 foot-pounds. Got our torque wrench. Now we're going to prepare to install the flex hose along the back side of the caliper. For that, we're going to take our banjo bolt and one of our brand new gaskets. Slide that all the way down onto the base of the banjo bolt. Continuing on, we're going to take that bolt and we'll slide it straight on through the flex hose. You can see the threaded portion facing towards where this small hooked area is. We'll install the second gasket on the other side of the flex hose. Now as we bring this over towards the caliper, we're going to pay attention in this area here. The caliper itself has two ports. One of them is threaded for our bolt, and the other one's just a smaller circular port. Let's get this aligned, start it in, snug it up. Got our flex hose in place. We can snug this up using our 11 millimeter. I'm going to be torquing this to 25 foot-pounds. Now I've got my torque wrench here. Get this lug nut off of here. Get the bleeder screw cover off of here. Now the next thing we want to do is remove our pressure from on that brake pedal. You can remove your bar. Now we're back at our bleeder screw. Use your 8 millimeter wrench. We can open this up and we're going to wait for a steady trickle of fluid making its way out of this area. This may take a moment. Now at this point, I typically like to flex my flex hose around and tap on my caliper. A little bit of vibration can help remove any air bubbles from in the system. Okay, we have a steady trickle of fluid coming out of here. I didn't see any more air bubbles. Let's go ahead and slowly close off that bleeder screw. We just want to take it till it bottoms out and a tiny bit further. Okay, friend, now the next thing we need to do is hop in the passenger compartment and attempt to pump up the brake pedal. We need it to be firm. If it feels like it's soft and squishy in any way, there could still be air trapped in the system, and if that's the case, you need to bleed your brakes. Assuming you are sure that there's no air in the system, go ahead and clean your mess and reinstall your bleeder screw cover. We're looking for the master cylinder along the driver's side of the engine compartment. Let's gain access to the cap. For that, you can remove your seal up along the top here. We'll just go ahead and pull that in one direction or the other. Has several locking clips. We don't need to go too far here. That exposes our protective panel. It has two locking tabs. Squeeze them in and pull this up and out of place. Clean along the top of the master cylinder so you're sure that nothing will fall inside of it. You even need to pay attention up along this plastic cowl. After you've cleaned that area, we're going to remove our brake master cap. We've got our brand new clean .3 brake fluid. Go ahead and top off that master cylinder. We'll reinstall the cap. Once you're sure it's topped off, reinstall your cover, clean any mess. We can install our cover on this area. Listen for an audible click. Reinstall your protective seal. You can see all of our small hooks here. Looking along the bottom of the seal, there's circular ports. Just go ahead and stretch it as necessary to slide it into position. Let's get our wheel in place. Now at this point, we're going to start on all 5 of our 21mm lug nuts. We'll bottom them out, get the wheel safely on the ground, and we can torque these to 76 foot-pounds. With the wheel back on the ground, let's torque each one of our 21mm lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay friend, we finished our installation. The last thing we want to do is check for leaks and take the vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching. The first thing we want to mention is you want to have several pints of clean .3 or .4 brake fluid and some parts cleaner. Now the first thing we want to do is make sure that all the bleeder screws on each one of our brakes opens as it should. Otherwise you might have to replace another braking component. After inspecting all those, we need to make our way back under the hood. We're looking for the master cylinder along the driver's side of the engine compartment. Let's gain access to the cap. For that, you can remove your seal up along the top here. We'll just go ahead and pull that in one direction or the other. It has several locking clips. We don't need to go too far here. That exposes our protective panel. It has 2 locking tabs. Squeeze them in and pull this up and out of place. Clean along the top of the master cylinder so you're sure that nothing will fall inside of it. You even need to pay attention up along this plastic cowl. After you've cleaned that area, we're going to remove our brake master cap. With that out of place, inside of the master cylinder, you're going to find that you have a small screen. We're going to want to remove that. For this, I'm just using an angled pick. We'll see if we can work it out of position. Let's see if we can pull that up and out of there. Set that aside. The next thing we need is a fluid extractor and a collection receptacle for all that fluid. Let's remove as much fluid as possible from inside the master cylinder. Now that we've removed as much fluid as possible from inside that master cylinder, we can reinstall our screen in this area. Just press it in there as far as possible. We've got our brand new clean .3 brake fluid. Go ahead and top off that master cylinder. We'll reinstall the cap. Now that we have the master topped off with brand new brake fluid, we made our way to the right rear brakes, or passenger side rear. We're going to start the bleeding sequence here. Now for the bleeding sequence, we're going to start at the passenger side rear, and then we're going to move to the driver's side front, diagonally. After we've bled that brake, we have to make our way up to the master cylinder, and we're going to check and top off that fluid. Once we've completed that, we're going to the driver's side rear, and then to the passenger side front. Once we've completed those 2 brakes, we're back up at the master cylinder. Now you can do this with a hose, you can use a small pan if necessary, whatever's best for you. This is going to be easiest if you have a second person to bleed the brakes. The person inside the vehicle is going to pump up the brake pedal till it feels nice and firm, approximately 3 to 5 times. They're going to hold it and let me know. While they're holding it, I'm going to open up the bleeder screw and fluid will come out of the bleeder screw. Once the fluid stops, I'm going to close the bleeder screw and I'm going to ask them to pump again. After it's firm, we're going to repeat this process several times until we know that we have only clean brake fluid making its way out of the system. Go ahead and pump up the brake pedal, please. I've got my hose on here. You should be able to see some fluid make its way out. Go ahead and pump. Go ahead and pump. You can release. Now at this point, I saw several times that I had only clean brake fluid making its way out of the system. Obviously, you want to continue this process until you've confirmed the same. Assuming you have, go ahead and remove your apparatus and clean up the mess in this area. Now as for the left front brakes, for the bleeder screw, we're going to be using an 8mm. We have our collection receptacles here so we can collect and recycle that fluid. We'll get this all in place. Go ahead and pump up the brakes, please. Go ahead and pump. That's looking good. Go ahead and pump. All right, just one more time here. This is looking good. Now, just like before, repeat this process as many times as necessary to confirm that you have only clean brake fluid making its way out and definitely no air. After you've completed that, go ahead and clean up your mess, reinstall your bleeder screw cover. We're making our way up to the master cylinder next. All the brakes have been bled. Remove your master cylinder cap, and we can continue on topping off that fluid all the way up to the maximum line. Once you're sure it's topped off, reinstall your cover, clean any mess. We can install our cover on this area. Listen for an audible click. Reinstall your protective seal. You can see all of our small hooks here. Looking along the bottom of the seal, there's circular ports. Just go ahead and stretch it as necessary to slide it into position. Okay, friend, we finished bleeding our brakes. The torque for all of the wheels will be 76 foot-pounds. After you've completed that, you want to make sure that you pump up your brake pedal till it's firm and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.